Hey everyone, welcome to Clickheads. I'm Eddie the Chump, and today we've got a discussion where I try and make the case that the Vandal does indeed need buffs. This is a hot topic in the community at the moment, with several Reddit threads and big figures talking about this on social media. As primarily a Vandal user myself, I can attest to some of the problems the weapon currently has and the areas in which it might need tweaking. As always with these big topics, we welcome your feedback in the comments below, as there's bound to be some strong feelings surrounding this subject. Let's first take a look at this very popular thread from BlueSpark2000 on Reddit. At the time of writing, it has over 11,000 upvotes. In this post, they show a video along with some complaints about the Vandal's first shot accuracy. Now, I'm going to play the video for you a couple of times while I expand on this topic. As many have commented in that thread, the reasons for BlueSpark not securing a headshot in this clip are more than just inaccuracy or accuracy values of the weapon. There are a few very narrow misses, recoil, control and resetting issues, etc. However, there are certainly a few things that are troubling from my point of view. Let's talk about the Vandal in general quickly first. At the top levels of the game, almost nobody uses it. And why is that? Well, the Phantom is just a better weapon in many regards. It does even have a better first shot than the Vandal, albeit very narrowly. The truth is, the Phantom just has too many upsides to not be picked by elite level players. More ammo, faster rate of fire, no tracers, good enough accuracy at most distances, etc. The Vandal's one strength over the Phantom, its one tap ability at further ranges, is not currently enough to persuade top players to pick it. Probably because they know they're increasing their first shot RNG at the same time when using it, and at the truly elite tiers, that's a bit of a deal breaker. Now, there is one other weapon that also factors into this, and that's the Guardian. The Guardian has a much better first shot accuracy than both the Vandal or the Phantom, and is seen by Riot as the premier ranged tapping weapon. Now, I've spoken about this before previously in videos briefly, but I think now is the time to make a stronger argument about the place of the Guardian in the game. The reason Riot haven't just straight up buffed the Vandal to a place I think most players think it should be is probably because they have this idea that they don't want to make the Guardian irrelevant. Much like their attitude towards firing modes and why spraying is pretty weak currently, Riot want the Guardian to be a genuine contender to the AR slot. They reduced its price to try and encourage its place in the meta and make it a little bit more dexterous, but players are still not going to use it, and it's now causing a problem. The problem is this: seeing the Guardian as a gun round weapon and not as a force or half-buy option is limiting the Vandal's place in the game, which is backwards as far as I'm concerned. Because the Guardian is seen by Riot the way it is, they are very reluctant to buff the Vandal, especially when it comes to first shot accuracy, as they don't want to give players a reason to never pick the Guardian instead of sometimes pick it. But the truth is, it gets used very rarely because it costs too much for how players would like to use it, instead of when the devs want us to. This is why clips like the one from Reddit I played earlier keep surfacing. It's not an isolated issue. How many times have we seen a clip like this? In fact, I'd go as far as saying I've seen worse examples which are much more clear cut. This last one did have elements of user error after all. Now, I'll be upfront, I do use the Vandal mainly in-game on rifle rounds. I got used to it making a video comparing it to the Phantom a long time ago, and at least for me, I can't use both. The recoil is just too different, but that's just me. I know the Phantom is a better weapon. It is beyond argument for me. I just got too used to the Vandal. It does also suit me as a player more, I think, but there are many occasions in-game where I think to myself, after losing a duel, hitting my opponent for 117, why am I using this? Especially when I place my reticle on someone's head, and for no reason other than having bad RNG luck, I hit them in the neck or the shoulder instead of the head. This is compounded when we get desyncs between client and server, and it appears as if I have hit the head but actually haven't, and I die because I've stopped shooting. I cry every time. Now, instead of just sounding like every other salty Vandal user, let me make a case for why it needs better first shot accuracy. Firstly, the Guardian shouldn't even be in the argument or consideration for whether or not the Vandal shoots more or less accurately. The reason is, players will never choose a semi-auto over an automatic rifle on rounds that really matter, and why is as that, because the Guardian is just too limiting. You have to play at range, being very careful, and in a very specific way to get the most out of the gun. Full buy rounds don't work like that traditionally, as both teams are trying to outposition each other, draw out utility, take space, execute, etc. You need a dexterous weapon in that context. The only super specific weapon that absolutely does have a place is the op, for very obvious reasons. The op kind of makes a mockery of the Guardian as it does its job only better but at a much higher price. I'd argue the Marshal is a better choice than the Guardian if you're going to play that range game searching for a headshot. It's much cheaper and has a scope. In practical terms, the Guardian's only true effective function at the moment is to limit the Vandal, which is just nonsense to me. Make it an eco weapon, nerf it if you have to, just get it out of the way of one of the game's two main ARs. Another reason why the Vandal's first shot accuracy should be buffed is because then it rises in power against ops. I'm not going to place all the blame for the ops dominance at the feet of first shot RNG, but it does significantly hamper a rifler's power to duel it. The Phantom isn't very good at some of the ranges an op player will be holding, and I think it's this player choice to almost exclusively use Phantoms that makes the op seem stronger than it actually is. Yes, the op is good, don't worry, I'm not saying it's not. Yes, there isn't quite enough utility to push op players off their favoured spots and punish them, but it is true that because the Phantom is so much better than the Vandal in most cases, everyone picks it and its one weakness happens to play into the op's hands. Imagine if there was a rifle that had better range with better accuracy and headshot damage. I say imagine because the Vandal isn't that rifle. It should be, but it's not. Don't get me wrong, it does have better stats in a lot of those categories than the Phantom, just not better enough in the one that would really count. Against an op, you basically have one opportunity. Hit them in the head immediately or die. Are you going to pray to RNGesus this and hope that the Vandal actually hits where you point it against a one-shot weapon? No, most people don't, and a big part of that is its first shot inaccuracy. Now, contrary to a lot of people, I do understand that we can't just buff the Vandal so its first shot is always pixel accurate. That's too far the other way. But if we made it the same as the Phantom at least, then it might actually be a hard decision as to which a player might want to take. The Phantom would still have the edge in many other areas, enough to make the choice compelling anyway. I do also want to take a moment to talk about aiming down sight. Both the Phantom and Vandal get more accurate when you do this, but again the Phantom is ahead in terms of accuracy and rate of fire. I'd go as far as saying this: the Vandal is pretty trash tier when you aim down sight because its rate of fire is laughably slow and you get the movement penalty. The Phantom suffers from this as well, but its spread is much tighter, so it's more of an even trade-off in that weapon's case. When players comment on Vandal clips whiffing, they often say, well, you should have ADS'd. For extreme range, I totally agree with that, but at the mid-distance we saw on the Reddit clip, I don't think that should really be necessary. I guess one of the concerns from Riot could be, if we buff the Vandal's accuracy, does it then just switch to the vast majority of people using that and the Phantom just gets left behind? I totally understand that concern, and if they went too far then yes, I could see that happening, but it would have to be quite extreme of a buff for people to swap over and lose the silence, bullets, no traces, better rate of fire, larger mag, etc. We might find ourselves in a spot where people elect to use the Vandal on attacking rounds and the Phantom on defense. Some players already do this, Liam is just one example, but in the Vandal's current state, that is much rarer than I'd consider ideal. Now, I know from having the privilege of talking to devs on occasion that they are very diligent, hardworking and intelligent people, and they are absolutely aware of any phenomena we perceive as being true in the game. They have loads of key data from rank, deathmatch, pro tournaments, etc. to work from. Morello and his team, just as an example, are really aware of, say, Cypher and Sage's 100% and 99% pick rates at most levels and have said they're going to try and address that. The gameplay team is different personnel, but I have total confidence that they'll be aware not only of how the community sees the Vandal, but how the data shows it's actually performing behind the scenes. Despite being frustrated with the weapon, I am actually thankful that Riot are not trigger happy when it comes to balance changes, as the alternative is actually much worse. However, I think in this case, the data, especially at the elite levels, is showing a distinctly one-sided picture. How many tournaments are we going to watch where the Phantom gets used almost 100% of the time? Because for Valorant's admittedly short esports life, that has pretty much been the case with a few exceptions. Something's not right if that's just how it is. Fans of CS will know, how long did we need to endure the Krieg meta before Valve took any action? Now, I don't think the Phantom is OP, I wouldn't change it at all, so it's not an apples to apples comparison, but surely we can't look at the real world player behavior and just say, this is fine. Or maybe we do. Maybe the Vandal is just going to be left the way it is, and Valorant is just a Phantom and op game on gun rounds. Maybe the majority of people are just okay with that. But I'm not. I think the game would be better if the choice between each rifle wasn't so stark. Sure, I could take a gun with less bullets, lower rate of fire, and dicey accuracy, or I could keep using this laser beam and be totally happy. I think I've made my position pretty clear, and at the end here I just want to say, if any devs do watch this, or if you're someone that just disagrees with me, I don't just think I know everything. Game balance is way harder than players would like to acknowledge, but some things aren't just a perception problem. Some things are borne out by simple player choice, and I think the Vandal pick rate numbers are telling their own story. Say it with me, people, the Vandal needs first shot buffs. And that's about it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you like the content on this channel, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you get notified when we upload. Also, please check out our Facebook stream. We're no-lifing Valorant over there, and it would be great to see some of you in the chat. Until next time.